Yeah, maybe we can put the table more here so you can watch the. Doesn't matter. I mean, because there is a video enabled, but that's no, we don't need it. Do you need to have the computer with the slides in front of you, or
Screen.
yeah?
I would show. I can have my own laptop.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, there somehow so I can. So you
Sorry.
don't need the video. I don't think I'm not. I think we're supposed to show the slides.
Yeah, exactly.
So
APIOps.
Yours. What's mine? Yeah.
So actually, everything works on your laptop except the speakers.
And the mic.
Well, we don't know about that. Maybe it works.
Oh, I can hear sound.
No, it's that one.
Oh,
Oh yeah. So actually, everything works on your laptop except the speakers. Right. Well, we don't know about that. Not everything. It works.
Yeah, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Okay, super. Okay, so I disable microphone. And by the way, I shared my screen, so you see my screen, yeah? Right now I open a new tab on Google Chrome. Yeah, like just confirm that you see my screen. Ah, okay, super. Okay, so I stop sharing and I stopping.
we have less or more participants in the next APIOps?
Obviously more. We're beating futures. Yay. Right. So there should be sound coming from the. And that's why I'm going to mute this. Obviously more. There we go. Because it's horrible to listen to yourself. All right. Well, I guess they can hear us from there. I'll just do the quick intro because it's time to get started. So first of all, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for Vincit also for hosting us and providing refreshments and pizza and a really awesome office. I think you have to do like the promo talk about if you want to work for us later. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about GraphQL. It's probably something you've heard of. Maybe you've toyed with it already, maybe not. But after today, you're definitely going to want to learn more about it. And we have speakers, not me, but we have Anton who's going to talk about Clojure. And then we have Ivan who's going to talk more about, well, GraphQL in a way. And Ivan is he's a guy from APIOps Guru, and he's live from Ukraine, where they just had the Eurovision Song Festival. I like it when we're doing those live things. Very important. You're all tech people, so hashtag APIOps, mention us, APIOps, follow us. We want tweets because you're all geeks, so that's what you do. Also tell all your friends about us because we do interesting things. Now, maybe some of you know already, who's been in APIOps meetup before? Raise your hand. Yay, good job. Who has not been here yet? It's the other people, obviously. So great that you guys joined. I hope this will be such an entertaining evening for you, or at least inspirational that you'll join us again. We have meetups all over Finland and soon all over the world. And you can follow us on Medium, but there's also a meetup group called APIOps Tampere that you should follow to keep updates on everything. I think we're now in everything started. Helsinki, we have some meetups planning, but we're soon going to be in Denmark as well, in Budapest. We're trying Miami, if I understood it correctly. So we're going for it because we believe this is important. Now, APIOps is the DevOps for APIs. And as Jarkko, the brain behind the term, so nicely synthesized, it's building standardized API value chain automation. So just what DevOps did for managing this software stack, what we try to achieve with APIOps is the same thing, but then for APIs. Because APIs are important. Everyone's using APIs nowadays. But there is a lot that can be improved in terms of APIOps, DevOps for APIs. So the agenda for today is I'm going to do my best and talk a bit about GraphQL very briefly. I'll keep it even under 5 minutes probably. After that, Ivan will Ukraine talk about Voayger. So it's about 15 minutes presentation, and afterwards there is time for Q&A as well. Then we have our in-house Vincit guru, Anton, who's going to talk about Clojure script. Beauty and the Beast. I'm intrigued. So let's see what that means. Then also what we always do when we do these meetups is APIOps actually really likes it when people come here and talk about topics. And we appreciate that with Amazon gift cards. Now this time, do we say at the end how that happens, or? Yeah, so in the end, you know who will get that. But be active and all that. It's always appreciated. And then after that, we wrap up. I bet there will be more pizza and drinks left that we can consume for a while, and then we all go home and enjoy the nice weather.
There's nice terrace.
So we'll have the beers on the terrace on that corner in the sun still. So yeah. All right. So yeah, Vincit is hosting this today. We're doing these meetups typically once a month, but not during summer holidays, and we're always having a host company that will sponsor us as well. If you're working for a company that you think might be interested, then reach out to us, because we're always looking for hosts and sponsors. Our main sponsor is also APIOps, so both I and me, we work for APIOps. APIOps is an API management tool, an open source project. Basically, if you have an API or you want to use an API, then we'll take care of a lot of things you should take care of, and you can just focus on developing APIs and adding really business value to it instead of managing the nitty-gritty details of APIs. So if you want to know more about it, we'll stick around, talk with us. And Anton will do the promo talk for Vincit. Okay, so what is GraphQL? Typically, when I do a presentation, I really like it when other people answer those questions. So who here is GraphQL already? Or at least read the docs? Jesus. Yes. So who can dare explain in a nutshell what GraphQL is? People who raised their hands.
GraphQL is a standard for the APIs.
Well, someone else will have to answer. So 2 left. You're smiling a lot, you know.
Yeah, just quickly look, so I can explain.
How about you?
It's a query language.
All right.
Okay, API. Well, I haven't used it. Like I'm mostly like I'm coming from the REST world, and
Right.
that's not the perfect match. I mean, there are a bit of like discussions about it, but basically allows like a backend to expose, let's say, data, schemas about the data, and also what possible operations you can perform on the data. So that's okay. The obvious one to get it, but also to change it.
Right. Yeah.
And by Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. I think those are a few good points. So, I mean, a lot of people here probably come from a REST world, and GraphQL is this kind of new kid around the block. Just like with React, Facebook developed this GraphQL thing. Facebook means it's also a bit controversial, obviously, because Facebook. But yeah, there is some frustrations that we all have with REST APIs that GraphQL tries and tackles. As mentioned before, it's a query language. Facebook, 2012, but released it publicly recently. So they actually managed to work on it internally for a while before releasing it in the wild. And well, it's an alternative to GitHub. Actually really nice about it is that you can, this is an example, you can actually yourself as a developer say, hey, this is the information I'm interested in. So you don't get what the developer of the API decided that you should get, you get what you actually ask for. So typically when you're asking for a user profile, you will get all the fields of the user that was defined by the API developer. Now you can say, hey, I only want a name and a picture, and that's it. So payload will be smaller, it's a lot easier to program, and so on and so on. Another very nice thing with GraphQL is you can actually define the relations between objects as well, which is very difficult to do with REST, typically. But here, because GraphQL, you can say, hey, if there's a user, well, there is a friend connection, give me the first 5 friend connections, and it will provide you that because you asked for it. Again, with REST APIs, if you want that kind of information, either you need to do a second request, or then the developer, API developer, should have developed that by himself. So that are very big benefits to the whole language as compared to REST API. There's obviously some downsides as well, but maybe that's something the presenters will talk about. So if you want to start using it, it's something you need to install server-side. It's runtime. By using a type system you define for your data. What that means, I have no idea. Sorry. But the good news is it's database agnostic, so you can use it in any database, be it Postgres, Mongo, whatever. So that's the good news. The other very nice thing is it's already really widely used. Obviously, Facebook is using it, but with us, Drift, Intuit, Build, and a few other big names are actively using this. There's also a lot of support and maturity to it. Yeah, here's a nice graph that Jaco prepared for us. So basically, a few pros and cons of REST versus GraphQL. The pros of GraphQL is it's a lot more human. It makes a lot more sense intuitively as a developer to start using GraphQL. And it's basically, it documents itself. When you read this query, you know what they're asking for. It's self-evident. But it's also, in terms of design patterns, we're really used to this REST API thing. I'm not adding this GraphQL thing. It's like, okay, well, what should I do? Should I use both GraphQL and REST API, or where should I incorporate this thing? And it's a bit new, and we don't have a ready answer yet, not a ready architecture yet necessarily. Well, the pros of REST, it's been around for a while, so we know how to use it. So, well, there's a lot of libraries. It's very mature. The cons, though, it's, well, we talked about it. You get what the developer decided you get, and that's it. Clear? Yay. So yeah, that's my short introduction on GraphQL. Hopefully we're going to get Ivan Goncharov. He's going to correct me on that one, I hope. So he's a really interesting guy. He started the APIs.guru website service. If you don't know, really do check it out. It's very interesting. There's some good information out there. And well, he's very good with REST APIs, but also with GraphQL and everything Open API related. So we're going to try this thing. He was online like half an hour ago. And he still is. Look at that. So I'm going to mute my microphone.
Hi. So you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see myself. So yeah, I'm from Ukraine, and I actually forget about Eurovision. So thank you for reminding me. I like totally miss this event. Maybe I'm not so into pop music. But today I will speak about GraphQL and about a little bit about why we slowly move into GraphQL. Yes. So a little bit about us. So I will share my screen in a second. Yeah. So you should. Oh. Yeah, you should see my screen. So it's our website, and we go by the name APIs Guru, and we specialize in development of tooling. So if you have some API tool in mind around REST or GraphQL, you can hire us. And previously, we work mostly with Swagger or Open API specification and build tools around it. But recently we made a switch to GraphQL, so all our new project is about GraphQL. By the way, if you have some problems with the sound, so just send me a message. And yeah, so we produce a couple of GraphQL projects, but the most popular is the Voayger, and we will talk today about it. Okay, great. So yeah, why GraphQL and why we make this move? So a little bit of context. So we personally don't have front end and we don't have a back end. So we focus on develop API tooling. So our previously our most famous project was Redoc, so it's engine for your Swagger Open API documentation. So we create tools like that, so like documentation generator, like tools which check your Swagger specification, things like that. And for us, so because we don't fall into category of front-end developers and back-end developers, that's why certain things are more important for us. And to provide context and explain a little bit about GraphQL, so I will show you this tool. It's called GraphQL, and it's created by Facebook. And usually it's accompanying GraphQL. So if you have GraphQL API, you use it every day. And this tool is basically interactive console, similar like, for example, Swagger UI. And you create a request on it, and it's have really nice auto completion. So every time I want to, so like in this occasion, it's like demo API. You can play with it under GraphQL.org Swappy GraphQL. It's a Star Wars API, so the database populated with a lot of data about Star Wars characters, films, planets, things like that. And you can query it using GraphQL. And you creating requests interactively. So, for example, right now we're asking a name of all characters of Star Wars. So Luke Skywalker, C-3PO, Darth Vader. But what's great about GraphQL, it's not only that you can query some simple request, it's that you can query nested data. So in this case, I will ask for all the films. So we ask for characters, and right now we will see all the films featuring these characters. So you see it's Luke Skywalker, and he was featured in 4 films. And this is great for front-end engineers. They don't need to do multiple requests. They can ask nested data. But what's more important for us is that every level have a type behind it. So there is a type called person. So like there is a special docs button. You open it, and you can go and see that all people have type of people connection. It's have an array of people. This one, and it's have type person, and it's have certain field with certain types, and you can go to like person to film connection to film, so you can explore a type system. So in comparison to REST, GraphQL is strong typed, and there is a type system behind every object, every node of the graph. But what's more important for us, by the way, these two are powered by a feature called introspection. So when you start it, it's dynamically querying the backend and asking for metadata, something like Swagger or OpenAPI, but it's embedded directly inside GraphQL server. So you can ask any GraphQL server about the types. So in this case, we will ask about person, and you start your query with special field called --type, and inside it you can get a name. So we just get the same value person. But what's interesting, so to have a kind. So we'll find out that person is an object, and it also have a fields. And for every field you can ask, for example, name. And you can ask type of the field, and you can continue and explore entire type system. And when we start working with GraphQL, we use this tool GraphQL and we use documentation tab. But we constantly thought about why nobody represented as a graph, because it's like GraphQL, so it's have a graph in the name. Why it's not represented as a graph? And by the way, you have all the necessary data. You can query by API itself and get everything you need. So we create this tool. It's right now it's in demo mode, but you can install it for your GraphQL API. It will work with every spec compliant GraphQL API. And in this case, we export the same API that I showed you before. So we have a root type, and it's have number subtypes. So for example, in the query that I showed before, we went to a person type. And from a person type, we went to a film type. So you see, GraphQL is with boxes and arrows actually represents how backend work. So in your query, you can follow every possible arrow. So we move from arrows to arrows. And we have a nice feature. If you click on certain types, you can see all connections, all input edges and output edges. What's even more interesting, you can see that there is cycles. For example, you can go from a film to a person, and you can go from person to film. And because we cannot put all available information on the graph itself, that's why we also create a left panel where you can see different description and more detailed information, plus it's synchronized. So every time you click on something here, it's also highlighted on the graph itself. And you can this is type of tool that it's hard to describe. It's more interesting and cool to play with it and explore it by yourself, especially for your own API. But we develop this tool with mostly like developer use case in mind. But we was approached by some people who really like it because it's not only representing your GraphQL API, it's representing your domain. So it's represent entities in your domain and connection between them. So they was able to show with like a graph with diagram to non-technical people, like business people, to show what data they have in backend and allow them to explore this data. It's pretty cool, and it's not only our tool, it's like entire thing about GraphQL. It's try to minimize technical knowledge you need to have in order to use it. So I actually don't know what's to show more. Like we have nice features like you can click on AI and travel. You can travel between types, and it's scalable, so you can make it smaller or bigger. It's working nicely for small APIs. So obviously, if it's more entities in your APIs, that's mean we cannot always fit it in one screen. I can show you like one more API. For example, it's OpenTrip Planner. As I understand, Helsinki transportation system use GraphQL on their backend, and they make it public, so you can explore it also in our demo. So we can go to query type and see that there is a stop type, and type stop have. By the way, it's interesting feature that types can reference itself. Yeah, I need to click it and not this one. Yeah, so yeah, it's hard to click, but it's I believe it's parent station. Yeah, so this type. So type, and you can go to a stop, and you can ask for parent station, and you can ask for parent station of parent station. That's why we think it's For REST API, it's enough of fat documentation, like really long fat documentation. But for GraphQL, you cannot describe every possible query. That's why you need to describe graph itself. You need to present a graph to developer. That's basically its purpose for our tool. If you, in our demo, by the way, there is like 2 modes for GraphQL. There is like kind of like modes. Query in which you can ask for data, and there is annotations when you can change something. So yeah, for this API we don't have mutation. For YAP API, I also don't have. For example, for GitHub, yeah. So for GitHub we actually have mutation. Many public GraphQL APIs actually read-only. Yeah, this is the thing that I talked before. So if we open really big API with a lot of entities, and GitHub have a lot of entities like users, repos, projects, things like that, and everything is interconnected. So we still need to work on figure out how to visualize the bigger graphs. But if for smaller one, it's working normally. So for example, YAP type look like that. So it's super simple. It's even simpler than Star Wars API. If you want to play more with GraphQL APIs, because no, one example is not enough, plus it's like artificial example. If you want to play with more like real life APIs, we create this list on GitHub. It's list of public GraphQL API, and there is try it button. And this try it button will open a graphical environment that I showed you before. And you can make queries in it and play and understand pros and cons of GraphQL for front-end developers. And yeah, so yeah, DigiTransit. Yeah, that's basically all. If you're interested in our other tools, you can go to Apis Guru, apis.guru website. And this is the one like one that I showed you right now. It's GraphQL Voayger. We also create a couple of more, like they're more complicated and yeah, like. But Voayger is a cool example of what you can build on top of GraphQL API, and it's showing you why it's different from REST. It's not only like performance difference. Not only like you can ask multiple queries at the same time, less round trips, but it also provide more opportunities for tooling development, and is provide like really nice metadata about API. It's called introspection. In GraphQL, it's called introspection. You can ask a question about types and fields and receive answers and build interesting representation. One of which is Voayger. So that's probably it. If you have like a question, I don't know how to communicate. Maybe you will enable microphone.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Ivan. Like we should actually give you a round of applause.
Yes.
You can hear that. Yeah, so that was really interesting. So basically with GraphQL, we get more power, but that also increases complexity. So then we need tools like the Voayger to guide us through the whole thing. So yeah, thanks a lot for working on this. I'm gonna just ask if there's any questions, and I'll repeat them to you then. So they're clear. So, people, shoot. Everyone's just baffled, by the way. I saw some people with stars in their eyes.
Yeah, I can comment on what you said about complexity. And It's like two-sided situation. On one side, it's added complexity, but for front-end Facebook official, like you need the goal. For every technology, you need a design goal. And for Facebook, design goal was to simplify work of front-end engineers. So if they had the option to make it easier for backend developers or front-end developers, they actually choose front-end developers. So like you can learn basic syntax of how to make queries in around hour or two. And after that, you can just play. And after completion is brilliant in this API console that I showed you. After completion is a really nice feature. You can you don't need to read documentation, just can start and explore API and explore how different types are connected together. So it's definitely simple for front-end engineers. It's adding some challenges for back-end engineers, but it's all for flexibility and for exploration. So that exploration for REST APIs mean like you're just scrolling API documentation and you find something. Here exploration is mean like you make these queries and you can allow to do queries with arbitrary complexity. You can limit it on the servers, obviously, to not overload server. But yeah, so this is idea behind GraphQL and philosophy.
All right. Well, thanks for clarifying. That gave some time for people thinking up questions.
How can I load my own schema to the GraphQL Voayger if I have an app with a schema and I want maybe have it privately so that it's not publicly available?
Right. So the question is how can Anton use it for his own projects and like can use it in private? Or did you hear the question?
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah. So
Sorry.
I will show it one more time. So there is two options. One option is in our demo, you can click custom schema box. You can copy introspection query, execute it inside GraphQL. Like I can show you. So you copy a query, you switch to here. You copy paste it. It's like quite big query, but it's asking about everything. It's asking like all possible data about this IP. You get result. You copy it. You put it here. So and you export the result. It's one option if you just want to quickly try it. And just the second one, you can actually you can add it for your own API. And we have like example of HTML. It's pretty simple. You just connect in one file, and that should be all.
Yes, thank you.
And by the way, I will post links into meetup page or on YouTube, somewhere where people can find them.
Yeah, and I think also with Jarko we can put the links also in the YouTube video then. Cool, Julia.
How tightly integrating can it be with JSON-LD and schema.org vocabulary?
Did you hear that or?
About integrating schema.org vocabulary into GraphQL, yeah?
And JSON-LD as well.
Yes.
JSON-LD. There is some similarity, but GraphQL initially was designed for like linking data inside your organization. It wasn't designed to create like publicly linked data. So there is no embedded mechanism, but nothing prevents you from generating GraphQL types out of schema.org or JSON-LD. So we can just map them into GraphQL. I'm not sure if one-to-one mapping is possible, but in GraphQL we have basic type system. It's probably more limiting than JSON-LD, so it's more like OOP like, because it have interfaces, objects, unions. It's more like, you know, similar to type system we have in a popular programming language. And I'm not sure that you can actually map everything, but you can try. Out of box, there is no features or projects I'm aware of linking schema or JSON LD into GraphQL. But it's pretty flexible technology, so you can figure out how to do some crazy stuff with it.
All right.
So in your experience, what kind of backend architectures are behind the GraphQL APIs? So of course, like for the developer or for the front end, it looks very simple, nice, but you need to take care of things in the backend. So like if you have any thoughts, experiences.
Yeah, so what's interesting, as I said before, we don't have our own backend, but we monitor everything that's going around GraphQL. And there is multiple videos, it's pretty popular topic, and companies sharing their experience. I cannot remember which company talked about that, but what's interesting, it's actually a trend. In many companies, GraphQL is promoted by front-end developers, so they create something called backend for front-end. So they putting proxy in between front end and backend. So they running their own server, proxy server, and it's proxy data from REST to GraphQL. And it's made by front-end engineers. I can't remember which company actually did it, but it's one of the big one. Something like Shopify, but I'm not sure. And it's one option is to create proxy, and it's allow you to play with GraphQL without affecting your backend, affecting your existing customers. Second option is to implement full-feature GraphQL server, and in many cases, people are actually using GraphQL as gateway to microservices. So you have multiple microservices, and it's hard to communicate with it with small servers. It's a lot of and you don't want to expose like a bunch of microservices to application or front end. So you need to put something in between, and GraphQL used for that purpose. If we speak about integration with databases, so there is like a couple of solutions. If you have something really, really simple, there is a project called Postgres GraphQL or PostGraphQL, something like that. So it's automatically exposing your Postgres database as a GraphQL server. Obviously, there is like some limitation in GraphQL. Resulting GraphQL API is very similar to tables in your database. There is no like abstraction between them. And like third option, you can actually generate write real GraphQL server. In that case, it looks scary because in GraphQL, in REST API, it's one-to-one mapping. So you have an endpoint, you know what JSON data you need to return. You can manually craft a select request, which return back like all the data you need. So basically, for many implementation, it's like URL map to a function, and function use like handcrafted select. For GraphQL, everything little bit harder, but at the same time, it's not like it's crazy hard. Basically, for every type you have, for every field, you have a resolve function, which is kind of callback, and you specify how to get data for this particular field, and rest is handled by GraphQL engine itself. There is a reference implementation for JavaScript and for many other languages. And what most of them are doing is calling callback for certain fields to return the data for this level, and library automatically handle all recursion or like embedded data. So it's handled by server-side library. You don't need to manually figure out or parse requests. You just need to provide a callback for every type. So I would recommend you, if you want to try something around GraphQL, to write simple proxy. And when it's allow you to iterate fast and without worries that you broke something. And when you will be ready to make a bigger move to write full feature GraphQL API based on your database or other data source.
All right, thanks, Ivan. I think that, except if someone really has a very important question still to ask. No, looks good. All right, then we can move on. Thanks a lot, Ivan. Really, really appreciate it. I don't know if Jaak already mentioned, but we owe you Amazon gift card, so that will find his way to you. So with loves from Finland, yeah, and we'll really appreciate it that you take the time for doing this. I'll take a picture very quickly now, and we'll send it to you as well, of all the people listening here to you.
Okay.
Wait, I need to go back even because there's so many of them. There we go. I'll send that with some delay as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about GraphQL and our work and API tooling in general.
Yeah, thank you. And let's keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Bye.
You want to hang around, by the way?
Yeah, I will hang around and listen, but obviously I need to stop screen sharing.
Yeah, of course. Cool. All right, but then we move on.
Take a 5-minute break to set up the next presentation.
Yeah.
Take some pizza while you're preparing for your presentation.
Wait, I can do the promo talk so not everyone, escapes. So yeah, the next one will be Anton Maklakov.
Right.
Yes. Who works here at Vincit. He's really awesome and very nice of you to have us here. Something about Beauty and the Beast and Clojure.
And GraphQL.
And GraphQL. So yeah, 5-minute break. Don't leave us. There's plenty of pizza and drinks, and see you in 5 minutes. Rob.
How are you?
Oh, not bad. How about you?
Onko se tässä se?
Se on siellä joo, se pitäisi olla siellä. Nyt saa toi.
it's that one. Presentation and there we go.
Just quick or arrows. Mikä se on, jos se sitten
Tuosman heiluttuja. Olen itse asiassa ihan aina huolissa. Muun muassa niistä. Tosi tiedän.
Joo. Ei mä oon ihan vaan. Tää on ihan entry level. Sen verran. Mä tutustunut siihen sisään vaan tykkään. Mäkin voi katsoa siis. Tulee tämmöinen useja kilpailevia tekniikoita, jos ollaan aika hyvin satsattu noiden tavallaan noiden verkkosaikojen ja en nyt sanoisi käytettävästä saatavuus, että niissä rakennettu aika hyvin ihmeen mukaan. Se on tapahtunut iso ero. Niin, juuria, että niin kuin muistan niin, että pystytään antaa exampleja, jos on tehty ansiosta, että päässyt sitä oikeasti käytetään. Se on mennyt tavallaan myyntihenkilöstä. Varsinkin toi, että pääsee.
All right, are we ready to start? Yes. So welcome once again on behalf of Vincit. I probably can tell some background on the Vincit. If you have good deduction skills, maybe you have already guessed that Vincit was founded 10 years ago by the name of the beer. It's called Kymppikalja. So Kymppi means that it's 10 years, and we had a couple months ago the 10-year birthday. It was actually in April. So yeah, we currently have around 300 employees in offices in Tampere, Helsinki, Savonlinna, and California. And actually now we also opened the office in Turku. We're doing all kind of software development, services design, visual design, and the hosting as well, and all the cloud services we have on Vincit Cloud. You can check our webpage and you can see all the references that we have. One of the most famous and best references maybe that everyone can relate to is the Hesburger mobile app. If you ever visited Hesburger and you don't have the app, or if you're still buying food from Hesburger from time to time, you better download the app and try it. It's really handy and it helps you a lot. Well, I don't know if it's actually good to promote the healthy lifestyle, but it's good as a reference.
Didn't you do a health app as well?
Yeah, there's actually some health apps as well. But yeah. What about me? I'm coming from St. Petersburg. I moved to Finland more than 6 years ago, and I've been working here in Vincit for 3.5 years now. And for the last couple of years, I've been working mainly with startups, and all of those startups had Clojure and Clojure script apps. So I thought that I could share my experience and tell you more details about the possibilities that Clojure and GraphQL are carrying. And currently, the project that I'm running has Clojure and GraphQL integration, so it might be interesting for you. So first, I'm going to talk a bit about Clojure. How many of you guys, by the way, know what Clojure is? Have some experience, except you, because you have Clojure T-shirt. 2. You do have experience. You know what is Clojure, right? Then I'm going to dive deeper to Clojure and GraphQL stack, and I will show in more details 2 interesting libraries, Lasinia for backend and Venia for frontend. What was that? Bing.
That was me.
All right. So do I have some hallucinations? Or? So Clojure is a modern Lisp dialect running on the JVM, which has own advantages and disadvantages. For those who are coming from Java background, they can be pleased that you can use Java quite handy from Clojure, as it has great Java interop. But however, I have actually never used any Java libraries because Clojure's ecosystem is just amazing. You can find anything you need from there. Of course, many people complain that Clojure startup time is really slow, and yeah, that's true. It can take up to a minute to start up the REPL, REPL run, evaluate, print loop. But in my opinion, it can be mitigated quite easily with the REPL development. So with REPL development means that you can test your functions, you can call your functions straight away from the REPL. You don't need to restart anything. And if you're running an app in the development environment, you can restart the whole app without. You can update the app if you change something in the code in a matter of seconds, and you don't need to restart the whole server, the whole app. The main concept of Clojure is immutable data, and it is really everywhere. Functions are data, inputs are data, outputs are data, configs are data, even DOM components, if you're working with the front end, are data. And it's a really important concept to grasp, because if we think about the app development, what do? We actually store some data in the backend, then the client calls for some data. You get the data from the backend, you process the data, modify it somehow, and give it back to the front-end client, and then it shows it to the customer. So it is all about the data nowadays when we are programming. So Clojure is really good at supporting that, and many people call programming Clojure as that data-driven development. And also the data is immutable, which means that once the data is defined, once the object is defined, it's never going to move. It's never going to change. Also, pure functions, as in any functional programming language, mean that no matter, it means that if you have the same input, every time you're going to have the same output, no matter what. So there is no side effects that are changing the way how the function handles the data that you supply to it. And for the front end, there's Clojure script, which is basically Clojure for the front end, which is compiled to JavaScript. I have to admit that many developers are really scared of Clojure, and when you mention Clojure to them, they really get like, oh, there's thousands of parents on the single row. That's really scary. I don't want to do anything that I don't understand anything. It's not true. In my opinion, the code of unexperienced Clojure developments can be scary. If you look here for the example, of the from the community-driven Clojure style guide, and if you check this second row, which is commented with not as good, I bet you won't be able to really understand what is happening here, because it's really messed up and it's really hard to grasp. But if you look for the first row, even if you don't know what this dash and arrow is doing, it's thread first macro, you can clearly get the context of what is happening here. So we have the vector of 3 numbers, you reverse them, then you add their new number, and then you print the result. So the same goes with for the second example. And this is the thing about Clojure, what I really like. If you really understand, if you really get the idea of Clojure, then you're able to write highly declarative, very readable, and easy to understand code, even for those people who have no experience with Clojure. In a couple of my projects, actually, I was working with people who had no Clojure experience prior to the project, and in 3 days, they were already committing new features to the product. Many people say that the learning curve is really huge for Clojure, but I really disagree with that based on my own experience. And Clojure in the wild, these are some companies that are using Clojure in production. I think not bad. There's even Boeing that have some in-flight system, which is not mission critical, but anyways, it's really nice that there's Clojure somewhere in the air as well. So if we're now coming back to the main topic of this meetup, to the GraphQL, let's imagine that we want to develop new amazing mobile-first app, web app, or why not native app with the Clojure and GraphQL. So I would like to present my opinion on the most appropriate and the best fit stack for this. And well, don't forget that it's anyway my opinion, and there's a lot of libraries available. So if you once try to use Clojure and GraphQL, you can choose your own instruments. But anyway, this would be my to-go solution. So for the front end, where we have our fancy web app, we have Clojure script spec, and I will explain what are those libraries and what are they doing in next slides. Spec, reagent, reframe, Venia, and maybe if we use in React Native, then some React Native stuff. And on the back end, where we have our GraphQL endpoint and business logic, we have Clojure spec, Kekkonen, and Lasinia. Those are the main building blocks, the main libraries. Of course, there's also some utility libraries that you might need, but these are the core. So on the back end, there is spec, which this library specifies the structure of the data. It handles the data validation and data destructuring, and also it allows to generate data based on the spec, or you might call it schema if it's easy to understand. Kekkonen, which is quite funny name, is data-driven library for creating and consuming remote services integrated with Swagger. It is highly configurable and very flexible. it has such things as context and interceptors. So you can put in context every third-party services, for example, what you need to have, or some extra data, what you need to have when you get the request from the client. So for example, if you need to check if the request is authorized, you can intercept the request before it really comes to the handler and get the GVT token from the request and resolve the user, and then put it to the context. And all the handlers that are handling the request, they already know who the user is, and they have all the user details. Lasinia is the GraphQL engine. It is backend agnostic, and it's actually just a contract between the GraphQL client and your application data. And Lasinia is developed by Walmart, and the first time when I heard about it was on the Clojure conference a couple of months ago. There was a great talk about Lasinia by the Walmart developer. You can Google it or YouTube it. It's quite interesting talk. And what goes to for the front end, there is also spec, the script. Then there is Reagent, which is a minimalistic React implementation of a Clojure script, where you are free of any boilerplate. You just have Clojure data, and you define the React components by using Clojure data. The reframe is the reactive state management, kind of same as Flux in JavaScript, where you define the data flow between your components and the global state by defining handlers, subscribers, and stuff like that. And Venia is the library for GraphQL query generation from the Clojure data. So let's now discuss in further detail Lasinia and Venia, because they are the core blocks for the GraphQL. So Lasinia basically consists of 4 building blocks: schema, definition, which is an EDN file, extensible data notation, means where you define all your objects. So as we've seen in the previous Ivan's talk, he was referring to Star Wars schema. So this is the part of the Star Wars schema where you have the objects droid, human, and some enums as well. And also you define in the schema queries. Here are 2 queries. And as Ivan also mentioned in the answer to the question about implementations of GraphQL in the backend, here are the resolvers. So you're saying to the you're defining the resolver, or you're actually referencing to resolver's name in the schema. That will be at this stage when you're getting the schema file and you compile it. It will be attached to the schema. So here you're attaching the resolvers, which are functions, to your schema. Then you're defining the endpoint. So here's Kekkonen endpoint, where you have which accepts post request with 2 parameters, query and variables. Query is string. In the GraphQL request, it just concatenates to a single string. And then you're just defining the resolvers. So here's it's actually the screenshots from the documentation of Lasinia. Here you're defining the logic behind the get hero resolver. So it can be anything. You can get the data from the database, or you can consume some third-party service, or you can combine them both, or you can just generate some dummy data and return it. Or you can use cache, or whatever you want. So the thing about the GraphQL that it really doesn't care about your backend implementations, because it is just a contract. Here you say, here's my schema, and here are the functions that used to resolve the data in your request. It's developers' task to define how the data is fetched and how it's processed. But the Lasinia is handling the rest, as Ivan just told in his presentation. So that's basically it for the backend implementation. And I think here's endless possibilities in Clojure and GraphQL combination, because schema here is just data. You can do anything with it. You can combine schemas from different sources. You can have you can split the schema for example, if you have very complex app and you have different domains there, you can split the schema in different domains and then just combine them at the moment when you're compiling it. Or you can generate the schema from PostgreSQL database. And actually, I didn't know that this GraphQL is already existing, so it's really nice. And that's great because PostgreSQL really offers possibilities for that schema generation. And what else? Lasinia has already implemented asynchronous query processing. So if you're fetching the data from multiple third-party services, and you can synchronize them by waiting for the response from the first service and then getting from the future response the data, you can attach it to the data of the other call to the other third-party service. And if they're dependent on each other, then you can just synchronize them that they are executed consequently with the required data. And Lasinia is production ready. It's 0.17, the version right now, but it's been running in the Walmart production apps for a while now, and so far it looks really nice. And for the front end, there's the Venia. Actually, I made this library myself because when I got excited about the GraphQL and I wanted to try it before the new project started, I found quite fast Lasinia, but then I Googled the front end solutions for GraphQL. I realized that there's nothing for Clojure script. There was one library which uses GraphQL files. So basically, you have a folder with the plenty of GraphQL files. You don't necessarily get the syntax highlighting in your editor if you're using it with Clojure, or maybe you do get. But anyway, I thought that, well, Clojure is about data, and I don't want to be dependent on the text files that are laying somewhere else. So the GraphQL queries on the front end should be generated from the data. This is the whole point of Clojure and Clojure script. So I started to write this library, and I think it's now in a quite good state. It's 0.2, the version right now. Doesn't have pretty much commits so far. Didn't have so much time to devote for that, but it already supports the basic functionality and almost the most important parts of the GraphQL specification. So here you define the query, which looks like this, which is a valid GraphQL query where you have variables, and you use variables as the arguments to query, and aliases and fragments. And they are all defined in quite simple map where you specify the operation name, operation type, variables, and then referencing to them in your query, which supports also nested fields, as you can see here. And I think it looks really neat, and for Clojure script app, it's a really good addition. Anyway, it is still a work in progress, and I hope I will be able in the future, well, maybe not during my holiday, we start soon, but after that to advance with it, and is to have the full GraphQL specification support with mutations as well. Then the introspection support would be nice, so that when you're writing a query or when you're trying to call the query, it could actually tell you if you have some invalid data there in the query that is not in the schema, so that you can get some real-time error handling or something like that. That would be really nice. And I would really like to also make some library for creating relay components where you define a React component and you just tell, you just give this kind of object to it, the map with the query, and then it fetches to that data itself, and then it updates it to the global state, and the data is available at any time for any other components, and then it synchronizes with the state. And I think it would be really, really fun thing to do. Yes. I think that's it for the main part. So the name was The Beast and the Beauty. So I leave it up for you to decide what is the beast here and what is the beauty. But I think actually myself that Clojure could be the beast because people are so scared of it. But it turns out to be a really nice and lovable guy. Thank you. So you don't need to sing, but it would be nice if someone sings. No one sang before.
We need more beer for that.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Something tough that I have no answer for.
You know something about the history of Gekko?
Yeah, I know that he was the first president of Finland, but I don't know much about him. So
this you know this story on the name in
the library.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the story behind it, but it's developed by Metozin, the company from Tampere. I guess they just have really good imagination. They're just fun guys, and they thought, let's call it Gekko.
Isn't it a beer as well?
Yeah, many things are good.
Well, maybe about Clojure one, because it's
Sure.
It's something that I have few friends who are really fan of it, and it's like it's the kind of thing like either you know it and you're a fan, or you don't know it. But I don't have a feeling it's like that immensely popular. But you say it's mature and like there's an ecosystem, you find everything.
Right.
Like, how long has it been around?
If I'm not mistaken, the Clojure itself is it 10 to 15 years old?
Right.
And well, it's been lately I'd say in the past 2 years, it had a really great spike in popularity.
Because of Clojure script.
Probably, yeah, and people were just started to realize that the functional programming is kinda like the future of the development right now, as it gets you away from all this object stuff, which is sometimes really annoying. And then, yeah, I think many people started trying it and they realized that it's fun, and then ecosystem started to grow. There's everyone started to contribute to the projects that they like, and maybe 2 years ago, all the libraries that are really popular now, they were really in the initial state, and then I guess the amount of the contributors and the interest in Clojure really helped to develop the better ecosystem. And there's Slack for Clojure, Clojurians, and you can ask there any question. Many people who are core developers of Clojure and Clojure script, they daily answer on the questions there, and they're really helpful. And many people learn from there.
Then also a follow-up question, because you say like function-based programming, it's definitely better than object-based. So I assume, because some think it's a hype and it will fly over and we'll get back to object-oriented at some point, but then others they're like, yeah, this is really an improvement. So you think it's a step forward?
Yeah, I think, yeah, because it really helps, at least for me. I don't need to write all this boilerplate. For example, I had a project in Java where if you need to introduce a new feature, you need to modify like millions of files. You need to modify the entities, DTOs, mappers, and CRUD features, and REST APIs, everything. And even if you're adding one field to database, it's like 1,000 rows updated. With Clojure, it is just data. So basically, you can focus on the domain itself. You don't need to write all those glue boilerplate that you need to attach all the things together. So if you're having the endpoint, you're just fetching the data for the client. Say it's simple REST API. So you're just adding the new field to the schema, and that's it. It's available there, and you can use it. You don't need anything else. And this is the deal breaker that was for me, that I really was able to focus on the app itself. And the productivity of my coding really grew exponentially since I started. Well, maybe not the first months when you're anyway getting used and really getting the grasp of the concept, but after that, productivity really improves.
So it runs on JVM, does utilize the newest Java versions.
Yeah.
Okay. And I understood that the newest Java versions support those due to the functional programming style. They support parallel processing.
The lambdas, yeah.
Yeah. So it scales up pretty well. Right?
Yeah. And you can use Clojure functions from Java as well. So if you make some Clojure library, then you can also use it in Java. Any more questions?
So I think it's easy to learn for just any developer with any language background, or do you recommend a particular background of developers?
I think it's possible for everyone.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yes, sure.
I dare you all to try. There's nice tutorial and book. You can buy it or you can just read it online, called Clojure for Brave and True. It goes through all the basic stuff, functional programming, up to really complicated and complex functions. And it's made in a very fun mode. There's like different funny tasks and funny data domain that you use in the tutorial, like some vampires and some stuff like that. I really recommend if you're interested to try it. Clojure for Brave and True. Easy to remember.
About the GraphQL, what about the data updates? I mean, we're talking about query language, but how about pushing the data the other way?
Yeah, it supports, as also Ivan mentioned, the mutation operation type. So there, basically, you just define the object which you want to mutate, and then you pass the data. You specify also the data word that you want to get back. So, for example, if something else gets updated in the way, then you get what you need for your client.
There's nothing internal ID process. Just it's the data you send. You have to, the backend needs to identify.
Yeah. I think you need to, if you want to update some existing object, then you need to specify the ID of that object so that it can update it in place.
Cool. I guess that's it.
Right.
One more run. I think we have some final slides.
Yeah. We are hiring. You're welcome to, if you're interested to come to the interviews, you can just check the website. There's all the contacts if you want to arrange the interview.
And I mean, look at this place. Come on. Yeah. All right, so that was Anton. Yeah, so same for you, Anton. Thanks a lot for the presentation and sharing your love of Clojure and GraphQL. I'm having this mental list in my mind of things programming languages I need to learn. GraphQL was there, now Clojure is there. Thanks a lot. No more sleeping for me. But yeah, so Amazon gift card coming your way, I guess, when Jarkko is back. So it might take a while, but yeah, exactly. So when you are on a holiday, you can buy cool programming, go through them on the beach. Yeah, next meetup that we'll be having is in Helsinki. There are some people who might be interested. It's going to be about chatbots-driven services and APIs, obviously. And that's going to be with Quark and Microsoft. So mark it in your agenda. Also, I'm going to repeat one more time. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We have a website as well, but then also definitely on meetups.com. So we have a group for Tampere, Helsinki, and more coming up. So then we'll definitely keep you updated that way. This presentation will also come online on YouTube. So if you want to view it later, might take a while because Jarkko put some nice music on it. So we need him to be back. But yeah, we'll be more than happy to see you next time as well. Then also, oh yeah, there we go. Medium, yeah. Medium is awesome. And Facebook, apparently. And obviously follow Vincit on Twitter as well, so you know when they're hiring something that you're interested in. All the time. Yeah, and that's it. So then there is still nice weather outside. So I would say let's grab a drink and a bite and chill outside for a few more minutes. Enjoy the summer. For those who go on a holiday, enjoy your holidays. For the others, enjoy your work. And see you next time then. And bye, Ivan, if you're still there.
Bye.
Wow.